You're not tired because you're doing too much. You're tired because you're doing it with a smile. You know the kind of smile I mean. The one that's slightly late, slightly forced, like your face is trying to keep up with your nervous system. The one you wear while you answer that text immediately even though your chest is tight. The one you wear while you apologize for things you didn't do. The one you wear while you say no worries as your body quietly keeps score. There's a specific kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from work. It comes from being good. Not good at something, good as a person. Good in a way that requires constant performance, constant proof, constant self-erasure. Here's the part nobody says out loud. A lot of good people are not peaceful people. They're disciplined people. They're controlled people. They're people who learned early that being liked was safer than being real. So they became pleasant. You've probably heard the labels people stick on you. So kind, so mature, so reliable, such a good friend. And you didn't apply. You were drafted. I'm going to say this cleanly, because you deserve it clean. Your weariness makes sense. It isn't weakness. It isn't laziness. It isn't you being too sensitive. It's your biology waving a white flag after years of acting like a customer service desk for everyone else's emotions. Because the nice guy burnout isn't really about being nice. It's about being afraid of the cost of not being nice. Let me show you what this looks like in real life. You're in a group chat. Someone makes a joke at your expense. It's small, the kind of thing that's obviously harmless. Everyone laughs. Your stomach drops for half a second, not because you're fragile, because your body remembers every time laughter meant you were about to be singled out. You type LOL anyway, add an emoji, and put the phone down with heat in your face. That's not personality, that's training. You're on a date or in a relationship or talking to someone you want to keep. They say, "I'm just being honest," and it's not honesty. It's a little blade wrapped in casual tone. Your brain starts drafting the right response like you're writing a legal document, not to communicate, to avoid consequences. You don't say what you feel. You say what won't get you punished. You call it being understanding. Your nervous system calls it survival. So you say yes, and you do it well. And you resent them quietly like drinking poison and hoping they get sick. This is the nice guy burnout. And I need you to hear the absolution before we go any deeper. You didn't choose this because you're secretly manipulative or fake. You chose it because it worked. At some point in your life, being agreeable reduced danger. Being good got you love, or at least got you less chaos. Being easy to be around made the room quieter. And when you're young, quiet feels like safety. Your brain isn't moral, it's practical. It's a prediction machine. It doesn't ask, "Is this noble?" It asks, "Will this keep me connected?" Because for humans, connection isn't a luxury. It's oxygen. Your nervous system treats rejection like physical threat. It doesn't matter how logical you are. Your body runs older software than your opinions. So if you learn that approval equals safety, you'll chase approval the way a drowning person chases air. Not because you're weak, because you're alive. Now let's get ugly in a useful way. There's a myth that being constantly good is a virtue. But constant goodness, this kind of goodness, doesn't behave like virtue. It behaves like slow biological self-destruction. Not dramatic, not cinematic. Like a phone battery that never hits 100% because you're running apps called, "What do they think of me? Did I upset them? Was that selfish? Am I a bad person? Should I apologize again? Should I send another message to clarify?" You can't rest when your identity is a performance review. People talk about burnout like it's about time management. But the nice guy burnout is about permission. You don't have permission to disappoint people, so you don't have permission to be a full human. And your body pays the bill. Your cortisol doesn't care about your values. Your cortisol cares about threat. And living as a moral saint is living under a constant invisible threat. The threat of being seen as bad. So you monitor yourself. You edit yourself. You pre-apologize. You over-explain. You become fluent in emotional footnotes. You turn every conversation into a court case where you are both the defendant and the lawyer. And you call it kindness. A lot of people confuse kindness with self-erasure because self-erasure looks smooth. It creates no conflict. It keeps the peace. But peace isn't the same as truth. Peace can be a hostage situation where your real needs are locked in the trunk. Here's the core mechanism. Validation addiction. Not the cute kind where you like compliments. The deeper kind where you need external approval to feel allowed to exist. This usually comes from early experiences where love was conditional. Love was a reward. Love was a mood in the room you had to manage. Maybe you had a parent who was unpredictable. Maybe you were praised only when you achieved. Maybe you were the easy kid because being easy was the price of being noticed. Maybe you were punished for anger, punished for needs, punished for having edges. So you learned to sand yourself down, and the world applauded. Because people love a person with no edges, a person who never says no, a person who never makes it weird, a person who always understands. But understanding can be a trauma response wearing glasses. Now here's the trapdoor moment. The thing that makes the nice guy burnout so brutal is that it's secretly fueled by a fantasy. A fantasy that if you are good enough, you will be safe forever. If you are kind enough, nobody will leave. If you are helpful enough, nobody will hurt you. If you are patient enough, nobody will betray you. If you can become morally perfect, the world will finally sign a contract that says you won't suffer. That contract does not exist. And the chase for it will drain you until you look around one day and realize you built a life where you are surrounded by people who are very comfortable receiving and strangely allergic to giving. Because here's another brutal truth. People don't always respect goodness. They often just get used to it. And when you finally try to set a boundary, they act like you committed a crime. Not because you did, because you changed the deal. You weren't their friend. You were their emotional utility. You weren't their partner. You were their calming device. You weren't their co-worker. You were their buffer. And now you're tired. Not just tired. Old tired. The kind of tired that makes your bones feel like they're made of wet cardboard. Let's get even more honest. There's a darker layer under being good that nobody likes to admit: control. Not control as in domination. Control as in, if I manage how everyone feels about me, I can manage what happens to me. Being the nice guy is often a way of trying to control uncertainty. It's like bribing reality with good behavior. You keep feeding the machine coins, hoping it won't take your comfort away. And the machine takes the coins and asks for more, because it can smell fear. Now listen carefully, because this part matters. Being somewhat selfish is not a moral failure. It's a biological requirement. If you don't protect your energy, your time, your attention, your sleep, your dignity, nobody else's nervous system will do that for you. Their nervous system has its own priorities. This is not evil, it's nature. A deer doesn't apologize for running, a dog doesn't explain why it's hungry. But you'll write a 3-paragraph essay to justify needing a quiet night. That's not morality. That's a broken permission structure. You've been treating your own needs like an inconvenience, like a pop-up ad you have to close quickly so other people can keep browsing you. And the body can only tolerate that for so long. Because every time you betray your own no, your nervous system learns a lesson. I am not safe with myself. That's the real injury, not what other people do, but what you do to yourself in order to keep them comfortable. That's why the exhaustion feels spiritual. Because it is. It's the fatigue of living with an inner roommate who never has your back. Let me give you one of those truths that stings in a way that heals. If your goodness is driven by fear, it's not goodness. It's a hostage negotiation. And the hostage is you. You become good the way a person becomes quiet when they hear footsteps in the hallway. You become good the way a phone switches to low power mode. You become good the way a company writes policies, not to love people but to prevent lawsuits. And then you wonder why it doesn't feel like love when people praise you. Because it isn't love, it's approval. Approval is a vending machine. Put in kindness, get a smile. Love is different. Love can survive your boundaries. Love can survive your bad mood. Love can survive you saying, no, not today. Approval can't. Approval evaporates the second you stop performing. That's why being a moral saint is biological suicide. You're trying to run your life on applause. Applause has no calories. Your body needs real fuel. Rest, honesty, limits, anger used cleanly, and the right to take up space without a disclaimer. Now, before you start swinging the pendulum into becoming cold and cruel, relax. This isn't about turning into a villain. This is about becoming a person. A person has edges. A person has preferences. A person disappoints people sometimes. A person can say no and stay alive. The exit from nice guy burnout isn't stop being good. It's stop being good at the expense of being real. And yes, that means some people will be confused. Some people will be annoyed. Some people will call you selfish. And that word, selfish, is often just what people say when you stop being convenient. Here are a few shifts that actually work. Not because they're inspirational, but because they're biological and strategic. First shift: separate kindness from compliance. Kindness is a choice. Compliance is a reflex. Kindness says, I care about you. Compliance says, please don't be mad at me. If you're about to say yes, pause and scan your body. Not your thoughts, your body. Do you feel open and calm? Or do you feel tight and hurried? If it's tight and hurried, that's not kindness. That's your nervous system hitting the old panic button. In that moment, your job is not to be nice. Your job is to be accurate. Try this sentence: let me check and get back to you. It sounds small, but it's a crowbar. It pries space open. Space is where your real answer lives. Second shift: practice micro-disappointments. You don't have to start with dramatic boundary speeches. Start with tiny no's, the kind that feel almost silly. Don't reply right away. Don't add the extra emoji. Don't over-explain why you can't make it. Let your no be clean. Because your nervous system needs reps. Right now it thinks disappointment equals danger. You need to teach it a new equation. I can disappoint someone and the world doesn't end. And it will feel wrong at first. Not because it's wrong, because it's new. That guilt you feel when you choose yourself, that isn't morality, that's withdrawal. Third shift: stop auditioning. Notice how often you narrate your intentions. I didn't mean it like that. Just to be clear, I hope this doesn't come off. Sorry, but that's you auditioning for good person in real time. Try doing the terrifying thing. State what you mean once, then stop talking. Let silence do some of the labor. Silence is where you find out who respects you and who just liked the old version of you that came with unlimited free shipping. And here's a deeper shift underneath all of them. Choose a new moral compass. Not am I a good person, but am I being loyal to my life? Because good person is vague. It's a courtroom with no judge and infinite charges. Loyalty to your life is concrete. It asks, did I sleep? Did I eat? Did I protect my attention? Did I tell the truth in a way I can live with? Did I betray myself today to buy peace? This is where it gets philosophical in a very practical way. A lot of the nice guy burnout is identity. You don't just do good things, you are the good one. And that identity is a cage with velvet padding. Because if you're the good one, you can't be messy. You can't be complicated. You can't be angry. You can't be needy. You can't be selfish. But you are a human animal. You have hunger. You have limits. You have instincts. You have a pulse. When you deny those, they don't disappear. They leak out as passive resentment, emotional numbness, sudden coldness, or that foggy dissociation where you're present but not really there. Like you're watching your life through cheap glass. If you want one clean reframe to keep in your pocket, here it is. Boundaries are not walls, they're skin. There. And yes, you will lose some people when you grow skin. The people who benefited from you being an open wound will not clap for your healing. But the ones who actually love you, they'll adjust, or they'll at least try, because love doesn't demand that you die slowly to prove you're safe. Now let's talk about selfishness, because that word has been used like a weapon on you. Selfishness isn't one thing. There's the selfishness that takes from others. That's ugly. But there's also the selfishness that protects your basic resources, so you don't become a hollow person who can't genuinely care anymore. That second kind isn't selfishness. It's maintenance. It's putting oxygen on yourself so you don't collapse mid-sentence while you're trying to rescue everyone else. And here's the final cruel joke. When you stop being a nice guy, you often become kinder, because you're no longer giving out of fear. You're giving out of choice. Choice has warmth. Fear has tension. People can feel the difference, even if they can't name it. The kindest yes in the world is worthless if it was bought with self-betrayal. Now, one last image to sit with. Picture your nervous system like a small office worker in a cramped cubicle. Every time you try to be good, it opens another spreadsheet. Approval tracking, mood monitoring, conflict prevention, self-editing, apology forecasting. It works overtime every day, no lunch break, no weekends. And then you wonder why you can't feel joy. Joy requires slack. Joy is what happens when the system isn't maxed out trying to avoid punishment. So if you're exhausted, stop treating it like a personal flaw. Treat it like a message. A message that says, the version of you that survived is not the version of you that can live. And here's the question I want to leave sitting in the room with you, like a glass you can't ignore. Who gets angry when you stop being good? And what does that reveal about what you were really giving them?